came across this post from Brian Tyler Cohen. It says text messages of young Republican groups across the country have just been leaked. Some of the things that these people are talking about are very disturbing. The language that they use is very disturbing. He gave us the article and I'm about to go through it, but you can see on the screen some of the things that they were saying, talking about putting people in gas chambers, attacking Jews, calling black people watermelon people, talking about bringing back slavery. These are people that want to be or are in politics. They want to hold office or are in office. These people are disturbing. This Politico article is pretty long, so go ahead, grab a snack, grab a beverage. So it says, I love Hitler. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. Thousands of private messages reveal young GOP leaders joking about gas chambers, slavery, and grape. So you can see some of the messages here. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Great. I love Hitler. It says, I'm ready to watch people burn now. I go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkeys play ball. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked for real, for real. So this is some of the racist, some of the bigotry that they are saying so casually in text messages. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They referred to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people, and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about graping their enemies and driving them to self-deletion, and lauded Republicans who they believe supported slavery. If you are a colored person, if you are a woman, how do you, okay, let me get back to, but still, how do you follow these people? How do you vote Republican? And this is how they feel about people. Now, obviously, we weren't privy to their chats, but still, these people have not been hiding their racism and sexism. I'm just going to try to read through this. William Hendrix, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the N-words, variations of a racial slur, more than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans, at the time referred to grape as epic. Peter Giunta, who at the time was chair of the same organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Giunta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000-member political organization for Republicans between 18 and 40 years old. I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, he continued. Two members of the chat responded, BW, when do we start bullying, dude? AK, we have a solid 3 people who could probably have them want to jump, as in self-delete. BW, if they vote for us, why would they be gassed? Here's some more text messages if you want to look at the screen. They're going to go into more detail in the article, so I'm just going to keep it moving. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. Joe Maligno, who previously identified himself as the general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, wrote back. I'm ready to watch people burn now, Annie K. Cady, New York's National Committee member, said. The exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. The chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. Since Politico began making inquiries, one member of the group chat is no longer employed at their job, and another's job offer was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Representative Elise Stefanik and State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt, have denounced the chat. And festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. A liberating atmosphere. The 2,900 pages of chats shared among a dozen millennial and Gen Z Republicans between early January and mid-August chronicle their campaign to seize control of the National Young Republican Organization on a hardline pro-Donald Trump platform. Many of the chat members already work inside government or party politics, and one serves as a state senator. Together, the messages reveal a culture where racist, anti-Semitic, and violent rhetoric circulate freely, and where the Trump-era loosening of political norms have made such talk feel less taboo among those positioning themselves as the party's next leaders. The more the political atmosphere is open and liberating, like it has been with the emergence of Trump and a more right-wing GOP even before him, it opens up young people and older people to telling racist jokes, making racist commentaries in private and public, said Joe Fegan, a Texas A&M sociology professor who has studied racism for the last 60 years. He's also concerned the words would be applied to public policy. It's chilling, of course, because they will act on these views. The dynamic of easy racism and casual cruelty played out in often dark, vivid fashion inside the chats, where campaign talk and party gossip blurred into streams of slurs and violent fantasies. This brown man is Peter Giunta. The group chat members spoke freely about the pressure to cow to Trump to avoid being called a rhino, the lovers Nazis within their party's right wing, and the president's alleged work to suppress documents related to wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein's child X crimes. Trump's too busy burning the Epstein files, Eric Dwyer, the chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, wrote in one instance. Dwyer and Kay Cady declined to comment. Maligno and Hendrix did not return requests for comment, but some involved in the chat did respond publicly. Giunta, that brown man that I just showed, claimed the release of the chat is a part of a highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by Gavin Wax. It was Gavin Wax and the New York City Young Republican Club. An allusion into the once obscured interscene war that has now spilled into the open. These logs were sourced by way of extortion and provided to Politico by the very same people conspiring against me, he said. What's most disheartening is that despite my unwavering support for President Trump since 2016, rogue members of his administration, including Gavin Wax, have participated in this conspiracy to ruin me publicly simply because I challenged them privately. I haven't seen him say he didn't type these things. Wax, a staffer in Trump's State Department, formerly led the New York Young Republican Club, a separate city-based group that is at odds with the state organization, the New York State Young Republicans. He declined to comment. Despite his allusion to infighting, Giunta still apologized. Oh, okay, let's see. I am so sorry to those offended by the insensitive and inexcusable language found within the more than 28,000 messages of a private group chat that I created during my campaign to lead the Young Republicans, he said. While I take complete responsibility, I have had no way of verifying their accuracy, and I'm deeply concerned that the message logs in question may have been deceptively doctored. Okay, so he's not taking any kind of accountability for his behaviors. At least one person in the Telegram chat works in the Trump administration, Michael Bartels, who, according to his LinkedIn account, serves as a senior advisor in the Office of General Counsel within the U.S. Small Business Administration. Bartels did not have much to say in the chat, but he didn't offer any pushback against the offensive rhetoric either. He declined to comment. A notarized affidavit signed by Bartels and obtained by Politico also sheds light on the intra-party rivalry that led to the Restorer War Room Telegram chat to be made public. Bartels references Wax as well. He wrote that he did not give Politico the chat and that Wax demanded in a phone call that he provide the full chat log. When I attempted to resist that demand after providing some of the requested information, Wax threatened my professional standing and raised the possibility of potential legal action related to an alleged breach of a non-disclosure agreement, Bartels claimed in the affidavit. My position within the New York Young Republican Club was directly threatened. Walker, who now leads the New York State Young Republicans, touched on a similar theme, saying that he believes portions of the chat may have been altered, taken out of context, or otherwise manipulated. and that the private exchanges were obtained and released in a way clearly intended to inflict harm. He also apologized. There is no excuse for the language and tone in messages attributed to me. The language is wrong and hurtful, and I sincerely apologize, Walker said. This has been a painful lesson about judgment and trust, and I'm committed to moving forward with greater care, respect, and accountability in everything I say and do. 251 times, mixed into formal conversations about whipping votes, social media strategies, and logistics, the members of the chat slung around an array of slurs, which Politico is republishing to show how they spoke. They used epithets like the F word, the slur for gay, the slur for stupid, the R word, and the N word appeared more than 251 times combined. These people are some freaking bigots. In one instance, Walker, who at the time was a staffer for Ortt, talked about how a mutual friend of some in the chat dated this very obese Indian woman for a period of time. Giunta responded that the woman was not Indian. She just didn't bathe often. Samuel Douglas, a state senator from northern Vermont and the head of the state's Young Republicans, replied to Giunta. In a separate conversation, Giunta shared that his flight to Charleston, South Carolina landed safely. Then he offered some advice for his fellow Young Republicans. If your pilot is a she and she looks 10 shades darker than someone from Sicily, just end it there. Scream the no-no word, Giunta wrote. Douglas did not respond to requests for comment. In a statement, Ortt called for the members of the chat to resign. I was shocked and disgusted to learn about the racist, anti-Semitic, and misogynistic comments attributed to members of the New York State Young Republicans, Ortt said. This behavior is indefensible and has no place in our party or anywhere in public life. So this is a person that we've been talking about. This is Bobby Walker. These people, okay, yes, this is Bobby Walker. I'll just say these people. This is these people. Walker had been in line to manage Republican Peter Oberacher's campaign for Congress in upstate New York, but a spokesperson for the campaign said Walker won't be brought in light of the comments in the chat. Seeking Trump's endorsement. The private rhetoric isn't happening in a vacuum. It comes amid a widespread coarsening of the broader political discourse, and as incendiary and racially offensive tropes from the right become increasingly common in public debate. Last month, Trump posted an AI-generated video that showed House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in a sombrero beside Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, whose fabricated remarks were about trading free health care for immigrant votes, a false, long-standing GOP trope. The sombrero meme has been widely used to mock Democrats as the government shutdown wears on. In his 2024 campaign, Trump spread the false reports of Haitian migrants eating pets, and at one of his rallies welcomed comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage and joked about Black people carving watermelons on Halloween. Liz Huston, a White House spokesperson, rejected the idea that Trump's rhetoric had anything to do with the chat members' language. Only an activist left-wing reporter would desperately try to tie President Trump into a story about a random group chat he has no affiliation with, while failing to mention the dangerous smears coming from Democrat politicians who have fantasized about murdering their opponents and called Republicans Nazis and fascists, she said. No one has been subjected to more vicious rhetoric and violence than President Trump and his supporters. In the Restorer War Room chat, Giunta tells his fellow Republicans that he spoke with the White House about an endorsement from Trump for his bid to become chairman for the National Federation. Trump and the Republican National Committee ultimately decided to stay neutral in the race. A White House official said that it has no affiliation with Restore YR and that hundreds of groups asked the White House for its endorsement. Giunta was the most prominent voice in the chat, spreading racist messages and often encouraged or liked by other members. When Luke Moiseman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching the NBA playoff game, Giunta responded, I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball. Giunta elsewhere refers to Black people as the watermelon people. Hendrix made a similar remark in July. Bro is at a chicken restaurant ordering his food. Would he like some watermelon and Kool-Aid with that? Hendrix was a communications assistant for Kansas's Republican Attorney General Chris Kobach until Thursday. That's last week. He also said in the chat that despite political differences, he's drawn to Missouri's Young Republican organization because Missouri doesn't like the slur word for gay people that starts with an F. This is William Hendrix. We just heard his name. These people all have a look. Oh my God. Politico reached out to Dandry Herbert, a spokesperson for the Attorney General who also serves as the Kansas GOP chair, and shared with her excerpts of the chat involving Hendrix. In response, Herbert said, "We are aware of the issue raised in your article, and Hendrix is no longer employed in Kobach's office." In another exchange, Dwyer, the Kansas chair, informs Giunta that one of Michigan's young Republicans promised him the group will vote for the most right-wing person to lead the national organization. "Great. I love Hitler," Giunta responded. Dwyer reacted with a smiley face. That's where we are. That brown person at the very beginning responded with a, "I love Hitler." What is wrong with these people? Few minority groups spared. Giunta, who serves as chief of staff to New York State Assembly member Mike Riley, ultimately fell 6 points short of winning the chairship to lead the Young Republicans National Federation earlier this year, despite earning endorsements from Stefanik and longtime Trump advisor Roger Stone. Riley did not respond to requests for comment. Earlier this year, Stefanik accepted an award from the New York State Young Republicans. She lauded Giunta for his tremendous leadership in August and had her campaign and the political PAC she leads donate to that state organization. Alex DeGrasse, a senior advisor for Stefanik, said the Congresswoman was absolutely appalled to learn about the comments made by leaders of the New York State Young Republicans and other YRs on a large national group chat. Like, oh, I am appalled. I don't know why I did that. According to the description provided by Politico, the comments were heinous, anti-Semitic, racist, and unacceptable, he continued, noting Stefanik has never employed anyone in the chat. If the description by Politico is correct, Congresswoman Stefanik calls for any New York young Republicans responsible for these horrific comments in this chat to step down immediately. Stone also condemned the comments in a statement. "I, of course, have never seen this alleged chat room thread," he said. "If it is authentic, I would, of course, denounce any such comments in the strongest possible terms. This would surprise me as it is inconsistent with the Peter I know, although I only know him in his capacity as the head of the New York Young Republicans, where I thought he did a good job." Few minority groups are spared from the Young Republicans group chat. Their rhetoric, normalized at most points as dark humor, mirrors some popular conservative political commentators, podcasters, and comedians amid a national erosion of what's considered acceptable discourse. Giunta's line on a darker-skinned pilot, for example, echoes one used by slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk last year when he said, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." Kirk was discussing how diversity hiring invites unwholesome thinking. Walker also uses the moniker Eye Patch McCain, originally coined by conservative commentator Tucker Carlson in an apparent reference to GOP Representative Dan Crenshaw. Crenshaw lost his eye while serving as a Navy SEAL in Afghanistan. Walker also makes the remark, "I prefer my war heroes not captured," a repeat of a similar 2015 line from Trump. Art Gibson, a professor at the University of Dayton who specializes in white racial extremism, surmised the young Republicans in the chat were influenced by Trump's language, which he said is often hyperbolic and emotionally charged. Trump's persistent use of hostile, often inflammatory language that normalizes aggressive discourse in conservative circles can be incredibly influential on young operatives who are still trying to figure it out. figure out what is that political discourse, Gibson said. White supremacist symbols. Gibson reviewed multiple excerpts of the Young Republicans chat provided by Politico. One was a late July message where Mosiman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, mused about how the group could win support for their preferred candidate by linking an opponent to white supremacist groups. But Mosiman then realized the plan could backfire. Kansas's Young Republicans could end up becoming attracted to that opponent. Can we get them to start releasing Schnazi edits with her, like pro-Nazi and fascism propaganda? He asked the group. Oh my God, I love this plan, Rachel Hope, the Arizona Young Republicans events chair, responded. The only problem is we will lose the Kansas delegation, Mosiman said. Hope and the two Kansas Young Republicans in the chat reacted with a laughing face to the message. Hope did not respond to requests for comment. Mosiman declined to comment. Gibson said the Young Republicans conversation reminded him of online discussions between members of neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups. You say it once or twice is a joke, but you say it 251 times is no longer a joke. The more we repeat certain ideas, the more real they become to us. Weeks later, someone in the chat staying in a hotel asked his members to guess what room we're in. 1488, Dwyer responds. White supremacists use the number 1488 because 14 is the number of words in the white supremacist slogan, "We must secure the existence of our people and the future for white children." H is the eighth letter in the alphabet, and 88 is often used as shorthand for Schneil-Schmittler. Vicious words for enemies. Members of the Telegram chat speak about their personal lives too. Extensive discussions about their everyday lives include one exchange about how devotedly Catholic some chat members are and how often they attend church. Many of the slurs, epithets, and violent language used in the chat often appear to be intended as jokes. Mosiman was derided by members of the chat as a beaner and spick, stay in the closet, another slur for a gay person. Walker of New York also jested in July, though he is the group's main target for the same epithet. The group used slurs against Asians too. My people built the train tracks with the Chinese, Walker says at one point, referring to his Italian ancestors. Let his people go, Maligno responds. Keep the chinks, though. What is wrong with these people? These people are disgusting and deplorable. In another instance, Mosiman tells the group that the Spanish came to America and had sex with every single woman. Sex is gay, Dwyer writes. Sex? It was grape, Mosiman replies. Epic, Walker says. Oh my God, if I don't understand women remaining in this chat. Okay, let me keep going. So here's the whole sex is gay, sex, blah, blah, blah. Here's that part of the text messages. There's more explicit malice in some phrases too, especially when they turn their ire on opponents outside the chat, such as the leader of the rival Grow YR slate, Hayden Padgett, who defeated Giunta and was reelected chairman of the Young Republican National Federation this summer. So you mean Hayden, slur word meaning gay, wrote the resolution himself? Giunta asked the group about the National Young Republicans chair in late May. Grape Hayden, Mosiman declared the following month. Adolf Padgett is in the slur word bunker as we speak, Walker said in July. Padgett responds to the chat's language in a statement. The Young Republican National Federation condemns all forms of racism, anti-Semitism, and hate. I want to be clear that such behavior is entirely inconsistent with our values and has no place within our organization or the broader conservative movement. Yeah, right. These people felt really comfortable doing this, and they're in politics. So this is Samuel Douglas. These young Republicans look quite middle-aged. Giunta also had expletive-laden criticisms for the young Republicans in states that were supporting or leaning towards Padgett's faction. Minnesota, slur word for gay people, he message continues. Arkansas, inbred cow lovers, and he did not say lovers. Nebraska, revolt in our favor, blocked by their bind and have a majority of their delegates. Maryland, fat, stinky. Oh my gosh, y'all can look at this is just I can't just read this. I can't. You can look at the screen if you want to. While reporting this article, Politico was examining a separate allegation that Giunta and the Young Republicans mismanaged the New York organization's finances and hadn't paid at least one venue for a swanky holiday party it hosted last year. Politico's report detailed how the organization was missing the required financial disclosure forms and how their subsequent efforts to file the forms revealed the organization was in more than $28,000 of debt. As of Tuesday, updated records show the organization is more than $38,000 of debt. Is in more than $38,000 of debt. Donations to the New York State Young Republicans political account must be reported to the State Board of Elections. Expenditures must be reported too. At the time, Giunta told Politico the allegations were nothing more than a sad and pathetic attempt at a political hit job. But in their Restorer War Room chat, he and Walker speak flippantly about mishandling the club's finances. I'm going to skip some of this because this is obviously getting long. If you want to look at this, you can. This is getting long, so I'll just skip to this part. Members of the chat occasionally appear to be aware of its toxicity and even made remarks that considered the possibility someone outside their tight-knit group could view it. Walker seemed to consider that possibility the most. In one instance, he joked about bombing the Young Republican National Federation Convention in Nashville and then remarked, "Just kidding," for our assigned FBI tracker. In another, he considered the totality of the thousands of messages he and his peers had written and what would happen if the public saw them come to light. If we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked, for real, for real. And they really should be cooked. Nobody should want to touch them. But I really do struggle to understand why people that are this age range, people that have had cell phones forever, would be this dumb. You know, I know people think these things, but why are these people this dumb knowing that leaks happen, that people can take screenshots and send them, and this stuff goes viral? These people deserve to be shunned forever and ever. Y'all join in and let me know what you think of this. Like, comment, and share.